Hello! There's a number of essential programs that are part of the backbone of my desktop functionality, and the thing is, I'm always mentioning them in passing or alluding to them, glossing over them, but I never talk about them specifically. I never point out this is the key program that I'm using to do this thing, and I want to remedy that because a lot of my desktop functionality, it would not be an overstatement to say things would not work the way that I want them to without these programs. Case in point being, I have a very specific functionality that I want in terms of displaying music playing in my status bar. I wanted to show whatever song was last playing or paused, but I also wanted to show whatever's playing in my browser. So if I unpause my video here, right, I want it to show the title of the video, I want it to be truncated to a specific character count, I want to be able to middle click it to pause that video, and I want it to revert back to whatever was last playing in my music player. And I want to now be able to middle click again, but this time have it pause the song in my music player instead of going to control the browser instead. So this functionality is all made possible based on one key program that this is all hinging on, which is PlayerCTL. To show you the help page for PlayerCTL, since it's pretty helpful, as they generally are, what PlayerCTL is going to do, it's going to allow you to control all of the various media players on your system. So it can control my browser, which is Qt Browser in this case, which has a Chromium backend that's directly compatible with PlayerCTL, but it can also control MPD. The only thing with MPD is I have a little add-on for it called MPD-Empriz. So MPD-Empriz is literally just going to be an add-on that makes MPD-Empriz compatible and therefore controllable by PlayerCTL. And what PlayerCTL can do, it can do stuff like player pause, skip tracks. It can also format the metadata for whatever is currently playing in that media player. And that's the key thing that my script here is using to display stuff and allow me to do things like player pause, or for example, I could add in the ability to seek tracks or something like that. This is all hinging on PlayerCTL. There is a program that I've mentioned once or twice, but I owe it to you to mention it again because of, first of all, just how useful it is, but second of all, how integrated it is into so much of my system. I forget that I'm even using it half the time. And to give you an example of how useful this program is, there's a lot of these default Linux commands that have this monochrome output, like lsblk for example, and it's really hard to parse through and get the information you need at a glance. You're going to be staring at it and trying to find the line you want. But we can fix this really easily just by using bat. I can pipe this into bat and I can just do -lconf, so the config language for that syntax highlighting. I'm going to do a -p flag to make the output plain, and there we go. I now have colorized output of the lsblk command. And the best part is, this works with a lot of different commands. Almost all commands, you can figure out a syntax highlighting language that you can use with that command to get output like this. You can also use it in stuff like your shell script. So I have a little stat script that I have, and I'm just using bat to colorize that output there, which makes it so much easier to parse through. Bat is one of those all-purpose tools that is just worth having. It's a clone of the cat command with a bunch of other features, including but not limited to syntax highlighting. So not only can this be used to just cat out files with syntax highlighting, it can also be used for stuff like colorizing your commands here. Now, I want to mention LM sensors, not just because so many programs rely on it as a backend, but because it's genuinely a good program and really useful to have. It's one of those programs that I would say is worth just installing on your system to have if you need it. And I don't say that lightly because I'm generally not a fan of just installing random stuff, but sensors is the one thing you really do want. The command you're gonna run is sensors. The program is called LM sensors, and what this is, it's going to monitor your hardware sensor information. Stuff like CPU and GPU temperature, things like fan speed as well, all of the core hardware information that you want to be keeping an eye on. And if you're not sure how to set this program up and configure it, there's a whole ArchWiki article about it. It's not that hard to figure out, so I'm sure you'll be able to set it up, figure it out, and you can do stuff like scripting to get the exact information output in the way that you want it. I believe it also supports JSON somewhere. Yeah, it has JSON output, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, this is one of those core system programs that I think is just worth having. I use two different clipboard management utilities, and it is so worth it, in my opinion, to integrate your system clipboard into as much as you can in terms of shell scripting and your workflow, because it's so much faster and more efficient. Like, for example, if you have command output and you want that to ultimately be copied somewhere else, you could just have a script that sends that directly into your clipboard, or maybe even a clipboard history if you want to do that, as opposed to having to manually select it and copy it, that sort of thing. A couple examples here of many. First of all, well, my word definition lookup script, it's using Xclip because of course it's faster to pull directly from the primary selection as opposed to manually typing out a word to get the definition. I also have my image-based clipboard history, which it's kind of a miracle that this works, to be honest. It's super jank and I kind of wouldn't recommend it, but like I think I honestly just made it for the sake of making something, since I feel like it's just cool that this is even possible to do. But it is actually really useful for me in that like I can take a screenshot and this is written into my clipboard history now, and I could go back and select whatever I wanted and like recopy the image of my choice from my image clipboard history. So that is the real use case that I have for this. But yeah, it's just using Xclip to pull from the clipboard and it writes them into a directory. I made a whole video on this, so I'll just link the video if you want to know how it works. But this is all using Xclip, since in this case I am on X11 on this PC. I use WL-clipboard on my laptop, which is kind of, I wouldn't say a immediate replacement for Xclip. You might have to do a couple things to modify your scripts, but it's close enough. It's basically the equivalent for Wayland. So yeah, I use Xclip here and WL-clipboard on my laptop, and there's so much you can do just integrating your clipboard into various scripts. Now, there's two different programs that I use to display images in the terminal, and these programs actually serve very different purposes. The first one being Chaffa, or maybe it's pronounced Chaffa, I'm not sure, but this is actually a pretty good demonstration of what it can do. It's rendering that animation as character art directly in the terminal. Why is this useful? Because if you're ever SSH'd into something and you want to quickly get a glance at an image without, you know, downloading it or doing something else to view that image, you can quickly see just a rendering of that image in the terminal. So to give you an example here, right, I could just do Chaffa, I'll do -C full for a color range of full color, and I'll just open up an animation here. I've got a little pixel animation, so that's why it's pretty pixelated. This is an actual pixel animation, but as you can see in the animation here, like it can do pretty well with images and really give you an idea of what that image contains. So mainly what I use it for is if I'm ever SSH'd and I just want to see like what an image contains. I do occasionally use it if I'm feeling extra lazy and I just want to quickly see what an image has without leaving the terminal. Sometimes I do that, to be honest with you, but generally I use this over SSH. Now, the other program I'm using specifically for things like my wallpaper menu, where I want the real image directly displayed, and that's what's happening here. I have a menu that's running via FZF, and it is using this program called Uperzug++ to render this image directly on top of the terminal, and I could go ahead and select a wallpaper. I never get tired of doing that. And this is specifically useful because I'm using a build of the ST terminal that does not have Sixel graphics patched in. I've chosen not to patch Sixel graphics and instead use this program, Uperzug++, in order to just hack images on top and display them on top. And there's a number of wrappers for lots of various applications that will go ahead and use this program in order to display images on top. Everything from file browsers, actually to my music player is using Uperzug++ to display an image, to, you know, integrating it into something like FZF. So there's a number of other programs that deserve a mention or a showcase in this format. The sort of programs that I just have integrated into so many different shell scripts at this point, but I think this is enough for one video, so I'll leave it here. Hopefully you learned something new. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Peace.